6:36, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Watch us on YouTube, watch us on X, watch us on Facebook and 99.7WTN.com. If you're looking for podcasts of the show, they are literally everywhere. Apple Podcasts and everywhere you get your podcasts. You can find me there in Nashville's Morning News. One of the segments we always podcast is our conversations with Jonathan Fahey, who joins us right now. Jonathan, always great to have you on Super Talk 99.7. And there's so many things that I want to talk to you about. But one of the things I thought was interesting, and I haven't really covered this much because, you know, the news, as we've been saying, is like drinking through a fire hose these days. But Donald Trump firing all of those inspectors general. So, again, you got all the Democrats talking about how he is acting like acting like a dictator and all of these other things. And I think part of the thing that Trump is trying to do is he's trying to get rid of, you know, the partisan inspector generals. Is that part of the reason why he did this?
Yeah, exactly. And it is kind of funny watching these Democrats, you know, they're melting down, and it's all performative, as you know. Like, nobody really cares about this issue, I don't think, at a high level. But, yeah, I think it's part of what he's doing is getting rid of people that are partisan or not doing their jobs, because the inspector generals are supposed to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. So this idea that the people he won't put in won't be better at that is hard argument to make. And I think it is just, you know, another sign of the left just totally melting down. The other thing that's kind of interesting is when you look at all the appointments they're melting down over is, you know, Donald Trump ran as anti-establishment. He's going to change things. And then the left melts down every time he does something that is anti-establishment, when he doesn't pick an establishment person for Secretary of Defense or anything else. So it is quite interesting watching this unfold.
Oh, Pete Hegseth, I mean, what a perfect example. And I think part of the problem that the Democrats have and the media that supports them is that everything is hair on fire. And I think that is a problem that they have, because the more that they do this, it's like the boy that cried wolf. It's like if everything is hair on fire, then nothing is.
Yeah, exactly. And John Fetterman pointed that out. Like, you know, we're not going to melt, you know, he was saying he's not going to melt down over every single little thing. And it is funny that some of them, you know, there's a part of it that's really, I think, just a laziness to it. They're just so easy. It's such an easy thing to do, to just always go into hysterics and get mad. And they don't have to be serious in any way. So it's sort of, they reverted to this sort of reflexive laziness, anti-Trump at every turn. But I think the American public, you know, they've lost the plot. I think the American people have figured this one out and aren't really buying it anymore.
I want to play you some audio. We had fun with this earlier, but a lot of people were still asleep. This is Selena Gomez.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything.
So that I don't know if you've seen that, heard that, but that was a video. Selena Gomez, of course, actress, performer, performative, whatever. And she's crying. And this is called, by the way, in case you don't know, Jonathan, this is called cry fishing, where what you do is you pretend to be, you know, really emotional and crying to get clicks and to get likes and and reaction on the socials and everything else. But basically she went viral because she's crying because she says these are her people that are getting deported. And one of the things that I said earlier was, you know, it's interesting. If these are your people, Selena Gomez, then, I mean, you keep some very strange company, because these are gang members and drug dealers and murderers and rapists. So I think now she deleted the post, I think, pretty quickly, but I think that goes to show you this performative nature of what is going on the left right now.
Yeah, it's really funny. And you know what's kind of funny is how bad professional actors and actresses are at crying. It's incredible because it's reminiscent of Alec Baldwin pretending to cry during the Rush shooting thing where he's wiping his eyes. And it's so funny because it's like, yeah, these are her people, but she lives in one of these shows showed a picture of her mansion that she lives in, and she doesn't seem to care the least about the American citizens that are paying enormous costs for the illegal aliens that are here, not just in the crimes, the human trafficking, all of these other things, but in terms of just regular day-to-day costs with overcrowded schools, overcrowded hospitals. Your housing prices are out of control because we added 10 million people. She couldn't care less about that. She doesn't clearly care about the illegal aliens, but she's just doing this, again, performative. But it's just funny how, they're so oblivious to their own hypocrisy and the way that they're perceived that at very least this hurts her cause, whatever her cause might be. But I don't think anyone feels any more sympathetic to the illegal aliens being removed after Selena Gomez pretended to cry than they did beforehand. So the whole thing is just ridiculous. These Hollywood people, I think everyone after this election, even the Democrats, I think are going to tone down the Hollywood endorsements because they're anything but effective and mostly offensive to most people.
Well, and I think part of the problem, Jonathan Fahey, is that you have all of these folks and they're saying that Donald Trump is deporting families and deporting children when he's not. So if it ever gets to the point, and I don't think that it will, but if it ever gets to the point where Trump is now deporting families and children, then if they're going to be screaming then, well, nobody's going to listen to them because, again, it's like the boy that cried wolf. Do you think that we'll ever get to, listening to Tom Homan in some interview with he did, and he says that he doesn't know if they'll ever get to families or people that are simply here illegally because he admits, and Trump has admitted this too, we don't have the money or the resources to find all those people, but we can get the low-hanging fruit, and that is the most dangerous of those illegal immigrants.
I think that's exactly right, and that's going to keep them busy for quite some time. But I think a couple of important points. One, by doing this has an enormous deterrent to people that want to come in here illegally, knowing that they might get kicked out. So they're not going to pay these exorbitant fees for the coyotes to come here. So that's one, we're stopping the flow. The other thing that's really good for the people that are here illegally now, this is going to be a great deterrent to them committing any crime because they know if they get hooked up for something, they're now going to be deported. So that will also make the community safer. I do wonder going forward what the best move is. Part of, if you really look at why do we have so many people here illegally, it's because the Biden administration encouraged it and financially incentivized it. So you do wonder if it wouldn't be a bad move to incentivize people to leave, maybe pay them some sort of small monetary, fee and allow them to leave with the opportunity to maybe in the future, apply to come and legally immigrate. And if they don't do that, then they'll never have the opportunity to do so. But I think on the short term, meaning in the next few years, there's plenty of criminals and plenty of people already ordered deported that's going to keep them quite busy.
Jonathan, you worked with President Trump during the first administration with ICE, and so part of this is messaging, right? Because if you have Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and a lot of other Republicans basically telegraphing you will be sent back, then that does impact their desire to make that dangerous trek. I'm going to ask you to answer that coming up. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News, 35 degrees now. So, Jonathan Fahey, the messaging is important for a number of reasons. Number one is it discourages people to come here, but the other part of that is that it encourages people to leave.
Yeah, exactly. And, part of discouraging people to come here, which is really important, is these drug trafficking organizations and human trafficking organizations were charging, $7,000 to $9,000 per person to get them to the country. So it's starving them of their funds, which is making them weaker, which also benefits Americans. But yeah, incentivize people to not come, to leave. And the prior administration incentivized everyone to come, maligned anyone that said anything about it as racist and xenophobe, and provided every single benefit. I don't know of a single benefit the Democrats would oppose illegal aliens getting than American citizens get. And American citizens, at least most of us, we don't get things like free phones and free hotel rooms. So, yeah, I think the messaging is enormous. And you just saw it yesterday with the Colombian president, how quickly he changed his tune. And the other thing that's interesting, a lot of these sanctuary states and cities are changing their tune. There's sort of a sleight of hand, but, Governor Pritzker the other day made a comment, something to the effect of, well, of course we want violent, criminals removed, which has not been the policy in Illinois. Their policy in Illinois has been indistinguishable between violent felons or anyone else with their sanctuary city policies. So a lot of these sanctuary cities, sanctuary states are going to yield. They won't admit that they're doing so. But, I talked about this yesterday on Fox with the countries, but the sanctuary cities are going to be two categories very quickly. They're going to be the ones that cooperate and the ones that wish they did. And that second group is going to get so small so quickly because it's going to be painful for them.
One of the things I thought was interesting is Trump, he wants to, and Speaker Mike Johnson has indicated that they might do this, try to tie aid to California to voter ID. I'm going to be honest with folks. I feel like that is holding badly needed funds hostage. So this is one of those moments where, and I've been honest with folks, I'm not always on board with Donald Trump, and I'm not sure where I'm at on that. I mean, is it fair to say to the people of California that you don't get, needed funds to recover from these fires unless your state legislature, and they filed legislation yesterday to do this, Republicans did, unless your state enacts voter ID? What do you think about that?
I think the brilliant thing about Donald Trump doing this, which is like so many things, he's bringing the issue to the forefront that they don't have voter ID. They oppose any sort of safeguards to make sure citizens vote. So I think he just brings the issue to a head. I think ultimately they're going to get the need because Donald Trump, as you saw from that press conference roundtable with Karen Bass last week, he really cares about California and wanting to improve things. And this is sort of in his wheelhouse, this construction type of thing. So I don't think they'll hold up any aid, but I do think there should be a serious conversation. He's brought it up in other, forums in which he's talking about election integrity, day voting, paper ballots, all of these things, which we really need to discuss. It's total nonsense the way our electoral system is, particularly places like California where there's no voter ID. They do nothing to ensure people are even citizens. If you suggest that there might be an issue, they call you names to try to get you to not even question them. But we really should have a system where everyone can rely that the people voting are citizens and allowed to vote and are who they say they are. That seems perfectly reasonable. And even Al Sharpton, who probably opposed it but went to Costco yesterday, and of course, I think you have to have an ID to go to Costco to prove you're a member. So all of these people are used to going. Yeah, so all of these people are used to having IDs for and no one even thinks twice about it. It's not even that big a deal, right? So it's like, find the 10 people that don't have an ID, and the Democratic Party can take them to DMV and get them an ID rather than spend hundreds of millions of dollars fighting things in court, which is what they've currently been doing, which exposes what they're really doing, which is trying to get people that aren't allowed to vote.
You bring up such a great point, and I should know this, which is with Donald Trump, everything is a negotiation, and he is all about marketing. Remember, way back when it was, what was it? I forget, Little Marco, Crooked Hillary, and all these other things. Well, Trump doing what he's doing and saying that, you're not going to get aid unless you have voter ID. That's kind of the same thing. He's branding a certain issue in a way that it does bring that conversation to the forefront. Jonathan Fahey, always great to have you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Looking forward to speaking to you again soon. By the way, if you heard Jonathan mention dropping Fox. He's on Fox and Fox Business all the time. You can also catch him there, 6:51 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Go take our poll. Watch us on YouTube. By the way, for those of you that were laughing at how pitiful my particular feed yesterday looked on YouTube, it looks a lot better today. So go check it out. and also take our poll. Like and subscribe to the channel as well on YouTube. The poll question today is, do you agree with Donald Trump's the number of executive orders? Because people are saying, oh, he's fascist and all these dictators. Whatever. I do agree with the executive orders. KGB, you're the one that watches the results. What are they?
87% say no and 7% undecided, and also 7% say yes. So it's a landslide.
So 87% agree with the number of executive orders.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So
only 13% disagree. And how many are undecided?
7% undecided, 7% say yes.
Are we
so
allowed
it's
to
kind of a
vote?
split.
Are we allowed to vote?
Do you have your ID?
You know, it's not required everywhere, you know.
Joan, for you, we'll make an exception.
Okay, I voted.
What did you vote? How did you vote?
I voted no. I had never voted on it, so I thought, ooh, I'm going to take a look at this.
Do you know what? I don't know if I've ever voted.
Oh, you got to go do it. It's kind of fun.
How silly is it that I've never voted? Anyway,
Right.
6:52, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Fresh from voting, because your voice matters.
That's right.
It's Joan Jones, and she's going to use that voice now to tell us what's coming up at 7.
All right, more charges in that sex trafficking ring that was busted in Antioch last month. Also, is it Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America? We'll tell you what Google is saying about its Google Maps.
I love that story.
Yeah, that's coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, thank you, Joan. Congressman Scott Desjardins is going to join us. And by the way, just so you folks know that I know, and I've said this 1,000 times, the cost of eggs. Joan, have you seen the bird flu? And you got all these chickens that are having to be euthanized because of the bird flu.
Yeah.
They'll put down hundreds of thousands of chickens at a time.
Yes.
It is horrific.
It
so
is.
part of the problem is that with the rising cost of eggs is that these chickens have the bird flu. And so you got to put down all the chickens, which means that there's less chickens to lay eggs, which means supply and demand. That means that the cost of eggs are going to go up. The difference between the cost of eggs now, a week into Donald Trump's presidency, and Joe Biden is that Donald Trump is making a concerted effort to fix the problems with rising prices across the board. So Trump may not be able to do anything about the bird flu, but if he can, fix the domestic oil issues and the fact that Biden is doing or did do everything he could to stop domestic oil production, if Trump can get that all cleared away and all those barriers and obstacles cleared away, then we can lower the price of gas, lower the price of all that. And that means that the cost of groceries will be lower. Running late, 6:54. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7.